So before we actually add the functionality of these buttons, we're going to do something cool with jQuery to, kind of make it a little bit more interactive. So go ahead and open up Komodo Edit. Get to your subscribe.html document. This is this. And in your base.html, open that up. Let's just make sure that we have this down here. If you do not have that, definitely install it. And of course, you want to make sure that jQuery has installed with that link right there. Or if you have a local file, that's okay too. It's likely that you probably have this one. Anyway, so once we are positive that we have this and it looks exactly like this, if it doesn't look like this, go back and make sure that you do. Here, I'll zoom in just so you can see exactly what it is. Okay. And now back into subscribe, we're gonna turn this into a row. So we'll do div class equals row. Put that down at the bottom, underneath that last div, and we can even indent this one in just so we can see it. All right, now we're gonna make all these crazy breaks. Just for now, we're gonna have a bunch of these just to show what it is that we'll be doing, and you will see that shortly. And we're gonna put a new row here. Make a little bit of space, and we'll just say new info. All right, and we're going to give this an ID of scroll. Okay, and now for all of our buttons, we are also going to give it a scroll ID. So a scroll class, not an ID. So let's grab all of these. Okay, so make sure you've got that. And now we're going to add the jQuery. So we're going to go block content. So this is going to be kind of one of your first introductions to jQuery. So basically the syntax is kind of like this. It's basically we use a $sign and then parentheses, and we want to grab something here. So this is going to be something. I'll explain what that is shortly. And then in this case, we're going to do it on a click. And when it's clicked, as in when the mouse is clicked on this something, let's do a function. And that function has some other stuff in it. And then we can just close it with a semicolon. So on click, it's going to do a function, and we actually want to pass in something here. We're going to do just an E. It could be pretty much any variable, but just pass in an E for event. You can even type out event. And then we're going to do our first thing, which is e.prevent default. So we need to assign one of our links to prevent what the default action is going to be. So remember, on like an A tag with HTML, if you click on it, if it has a link to it, it's going to go there. What this is doing is going to prevent that from going there. So now we need to figure out how we can apply this code to something here. So we added that scroll class, and if you remember in CSS, it's dot scroll. If it's an ID, it'd be ID scroll. Okay, so dot scroll is applying to all the class versions. Hashtag scroll is applying to the ID, so down here. Okay, so now we know what these two things are. So dot scroll is going to apply to each one of these. Now if we do dot scroll and we move it up into here inside of parentheses, that means when dot scroll is clicked, we're going to do some function, but it's going to prevent the default. So for now, let's just do that. We're going to change this to google.com. We're going to save that. So if we go back in here and do a quick refresh, oops, block content is not block content, it's block jQuery. Just a little error there, so make sure it's block jQuery. And right here, if you notice on the link down at the bottom, it says /google.com. So if we changed it to HTTP and then do a refresh, it's going to go to google.com, right? Or at least it's supposed to. But if we click it, nothing happens. And that's what that prevent default does. So if we get rid of this, do a refresh, and click it, it's going to take us over to google.com. And if you see it's loading, it's not going that fast, but it is loading, and there it is, google.com. And put it back, do a refresh, nothing happens. And this is true anytime if we want to change the prevent default on anything that's submitted to form or all this other stuff. But I tend to use it a lot for links, for when we're clicking on links and we want some type of different functionality for it. In this case, we're going to do an animation, and it's going to scroll down to new info. So new info looks pretty empty, so let's actually add some stuff to it. And we're going to add a styling of height. We're going to add, let's say, like 1,000 pixels just to make the page extra long. And let's add a few more of these breaks, again, to make the page extra long, and it's only for illustration purposes. We can get rid of these at some point later, but now we want to add this thing called animate. So we're going to have to figure out what we're going to be animating, so that's what this is doing, and then we'll do dot animate. It's a JQuery function, and it's pretty simple. It's doing some type of animation. Now in this case, we're going to do scroll top. So this is basically saying scroll to some level from the top down. And what we're going to do is we need to grab some other value, and that will be our scroll. So I zoomed in a little bit so you can see it better. I accidentally added that bracket. Get rid of that because we already have one down here. And put a comma, and then this is going to be the speed, so slow. Now what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to animate the body and HTML. So that's animating the whole thing, and it's going to scroll down for us. So basically what we want to do when we click here, we want it to bring us down just like this, but automatically to there. And that means we need to scroll to a certain point, and that point is right here, this ID of scroll. So let's put scroll, hashtag scroll, so the ID of scroll. But this is not like an actual number. So we want to put a number. We'll do the offset of it from the top of its offset. And then we want to subtract a certain amount of pixels. And I'm going to do 60 just to try it out. So let's save that. And we'll do a quick little refresh here. Click it, and it looks as if it is failing, so we have some error. And let's actually get rid of this for now and do a quick refresh here and just see if the prevent default is working. Try that again. Yep, it looks like it is. Okay, so afterwards we're gonna check a few things to see what's going on exactly with this. So adding that semicolon was crucial. Having it on the separate line actually didn't matter. But as you see, each line has to have a semicolon, where what we're used to in Django is just the spacing is how we know a function is done. In this case, we need semicolons because you can do spacing of any kind and it's still going to work. But the semicolon says that, hey, this line of code is finished, basically. So that's kind of where we found that error, and that's how you can kind of move forward. Sometimes these errors show up, sometimes they do not. Let's say if we did something like that, and I went back into Chrome and clicked on one, if we see in our console, so you go in here and go to inspect element, this comes up, and then we go to console, you'll see that it has no method, whatever this is called. That usually means that either you did not define it or you spelled it wrong or whatever. and that's where you can kind of catch some of the errors. Sometimes they will not show up because just technically the code is okay, but maybe you grabbed the wrong thing. So like if that was the case, it will show an error, but it doesn't show exactly what it is. So keep that in mind when you go forward. Otherwise, we have the scroll is now working, and it is preventing the default action from happening. That's very simple. If we wanted to change it, we could try, like, let's say 600 pixels. It's just going to scroll from the top 600, and if we click that, it's going to go down 600 pixels from the top. So all I did with this offset was showing the top of this and going down 60, because if we go to the very top of that, it's going to be hidden. So if I just get rid of this, basically it's going to go away. So it's just kind of hidden a little bit. So that's why I subtracted 60, because the offset from the top of it is a certain amount, and that's essentially where it's going down to, right? So it could be like that number could be 4,000 or whatever, but if we remove some of these, we could refresh it and it will still scroll there. So we can use this so many times, and it makes it kind of easy and kind of cool to see, and it's not like a quick jump like we've seen before. It's a nice smooth transition down to something else. And of course, if you click it back to the top, we can have it do that, where it just, the top would go back up, and that would be scroll top. We would probably do 60, right? So if we wanted to put that back, see, if we do scroll top of 60, that brings us right there. And that only brings us a little bit down, or we can go 30, and it's probably not going to move a whole lot. So if we had a button down here, we could do that exact same thing. I'll let you guys kind of play around with jQuery, at least this one function of it. There's so much more you can do with jQuery, and if you have any questions, of course, let me know. I thought this would be a cool little styling thing for you guys, and if we keep it at that, we will always go down to where that new info is, even if we get rid of all of these breaks, which I'm going to do because it doesn't need to be so dramatic. It could just be like that, maybe a couple breaks, or like an HR tag and a couple breaks after that, for more realistic version of how we would do it. So all right, and yeah, in the next one we will actually add some functionality to it. All right, see you then.